Okay, hi, I'm back. Thank you. Thank you everybody for joining us today. I have guest coach Shannon Carpenter with us today. She is a certified Trim Healthy Mama lifestyle coach like I am, and here to offer some more information. I know a lot of people in this group work with food allergies, and Shannon has experience with that. So I've asked her to join us live today to talk about different foods on THM and how maybe her THM journey or how she feeds her family looks a little bit different. So I'm going to go ahead and hop off, and I will still be here, but just not visible, and let Shannon take the floor, and we will just be chatting. And if you have any questions, please feel free to post or comment.
Hello, ladies and everyone here. It's a privilege and honor to be here today. Hopefully, you will come away with some golden nuggets and encouragement for your THM journey. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you some tips and encouragement on how I do Trim Healthy Mama gluten-free and dairy-free. I have written everything down, so you'll see me reading it just to kind of help keep me on track and so that I don't forget anything. First of all, I'll share with you briefly just my health and THM journey. I've been doing THM full on for 3 years, and I've dabbled in THM in the years prior. Ever since I can remember, I've been a health enthusiast and recipe crafter. In my teen years, I struggled with borderline anorexia. My periods stopped for years, and I was living life in the thin cage, imprisoned by that identity that I would stop at almost nothing to keep. And with some spiritual growth and marriage, my weight balanced out to a more healthier state. And we struggled to get pregnant for years, though. But then we were blessed with 2 children. And after the birth of my second child, I developed severe IBS symptoms. And I went through years of testing. And I found that if I avoided gluten and dairy, I pretty much had little to no symptoms, except for occasional stress flare ups. My husband and I did choose to work with a naturopath and a health coach for a couple years. And during that time, our diet just significantly, we became just more cleaner eating. It was a little bit more paleo focused. And one of the things I love about THM is that it's more, the paleo is more denser food and just like heavier. And I'm a volume eater, so I love that, just the flexibility of being able to eat a little bit more with THM. And my husband is my first client, I guess you could say. He has lost 85 pounds, and thanks to THM, he is maintaining his weight loss and enjoying food and life. With the onset of my severe IBS symptoms, I began a difficult and life-changing journey with miscarriages and secondary infertility. This was particularly hard for me because having a big family had always been a dream of mine. And so I took this really hard. I basically entrenched myself in research and attending webinars and various doctors and naturopaths. I was determined to do everything I could to make my body as healthy and fertile as possible naturally. I feel like, though, so much of the experts and doctors and natural doctors that I was gleaning from were so much fear-based, and God was not in the picture. It felt like it was just becoming more and more like everything is bad for you, right? And that's still, I feel like, the culture in the health arena is that you take a food and somebody can find something bad about it or criticize, like a banana even. Um, and there just always seems to be this striving for safety out of fear. But where is your rest? And where is God in the picture? I really struggled with that. The Lord did eventually bless us with a rainbow baby along the way. And then as I struggled to lose weight after this pregnancy, that is where I fully embraced THM. And that is where I found my rest and my joy in this health journey. And the thing that I love most is freedom. Freedom to do the best that I can within my means that God has given me and to leave the rest to God. If you remember anything from our time together today, I would like you to remember these two words: perspective and healing. Your perspective on your health and your life is powerful. You have the privilege of walking this health journey to heal your body. You have the privilege of knowledge at your fingertips and the support of this amazing THM community to walk alongside you. When I first got my food sensitivity test results back while working with our naturopath and health coach, it felt overwhelming. It can feel daunting how much of your usual familiar food is suddenly on the do not eat list. This is where it's important to reframe your perspective. This is a time of healing for your body, and it isn't necessarily permanent, especially of every single food that is on your food sensitivity list at the time. It's just that your body is in overload and inflammation. And it's just a sign that this is your time to slow down and take some TLC for yourself, a time of healing. God has made our bodies incredibly well to be able to heal on their own, given the right tools, and just allowing time to do that. And it's also amazing today, just all of the knowledge that is out there and all of the creative ideas as far as what is available, say, if you need to be gluten-free or dairy-free or low food map or AIP for a while. Just amazing, the recipes that you can find that are out there. So I encourage you to embrace the journey and enjoy the creativity in working with what you can eat versus focusing on what you can't eat. And I just wanted to also share with you a few personal tips that I use while staying gluten-free and dairy-free. I love the Wonder Wraps using the egg whites and psyllium husk. It's a cheap option if you're on a budget. So they are in the original cookbook, page 204 and 205. But then there's the Wonder Wraps too, just a little bit of a variation. It's also super tasty, page 251 on Trim Healthy Table. And I simply use the nutritional yeast and not the Parmesan cheese just to stay dairy-free. And then there are like the egg white wraps in the store currently that are another great on-plan option. You can find them at Walmart. I've even found them at Aldi. So both the Trim Healthy Mama cookbook and the Table cookbook have some great options for gluten-free bread. One of our favorites is the 15-minute focaccia bread on page 247 in the Trim Healthy Table cookbook. It's super quick, simple, and versatile. And you can have it with soups, salads, anything really. It's just very easy to make and great. Sometimes I'll make it at the beginning of the week and just have it on hand to add to our meals. Other quick and easy options are the Swiss bread, and there is like a full size, and then there's even a single size also for that. The Wonderful White Blender bread and the bread in a mug. Those are some other great options. If you have a busy schedule and cost is not an issue, there are some other gluten-free bread options that are on plan that you can buy. Typically, you will find them online or at a health food store. One of the brands is Simple Needs, Kneads. And they have their own website, and also you can find them on Amazon. And the cheapest variation I found is if you buy 2 loaves, and it comes out to about $8 a loaf. And then there's Dayland and Bakery oatmeal bread. Dayland, D-E, then capital L-A-N-D. That's an E version. And then Grindstone Bakery quinoa and millet bread, another E version. And then the company brand Julian Bakery paleo breads have some great options. They have their almond bread, which would be an S, their coconut bread, which would be Fuel Pool, their carb zero bread regular, which would be Fuel Pool, their carb zero bread cinnamon, which would also be Fuel Pool, the Julian Bakery paleo wraps, the coconut version, which would be an S. The cheapest price I found for them is if you buy 3 loaves, and that would be for $40. And then there's the company, the Pure Wrap, their coconut wraps, those are Fuel Pool. And then the Oregon Crispy Bread, either quinoa or the buckwheat. And then the Food for Life Sprouted Corn Tortilla, those would be an E. And then the Simple Needs gluten-free sourdough bread, that would also be an E. Overall, when you're in the store and you flip the bread over to look at the ingredients, if it has tapioca, arrowroot, cassava, potato, or corn, those are not on plan. So that would automatically signal this is not an on-plan bread. Tapioca, arrowroot, cassava, potato, and corn. Potato and corn especially, they're mass produced, they're often GMO, and it's the typical breads that you see available even at Walmart and Aldi or what have you, and because they are cheap alternatives for gluten. But the thing that just makes them not so nice is that because they're processed, basically, they're not in their original form. They're going to hit your bloodstream harder. They're going to spike your blood sugar, and they're not so friendly for your waistline and choosing for the weight loss journey and health journey and keeping your blood sugars balanced, and that affects your hormones and everything else. So those are the big things to look for, what's not on plan. And that's why it's a little bit harder to find things that are on plan, that are clean, and that are well done. In a way, it's a little bit frustrating because I feel like there's a lot of advertisement. Oh, this is gluten-free, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's good for you or for your journey. Now, when it comes to pastas, it's important. Again, the grain-based pastas are processed, so it's going to go into your bloodstream much quicker. Same thing, and spike your blood sugar, cause weight gain, and that's why they're not considered on plan. Grains made with quinoa and brown rice are okay, maybe in moderate or smaller portions, and coupled with like a lean meat to prevent the spike in your blood sugar so much. Now, the pasta is made with black beans, lentils, mung beans. They can be used a little bit more generously and in ease setting. So those are some gluten-free options like at the store if that suits your lifestyle better. And then as for some dairy-free tips for navigating Trim Healthy Mama, I think it can be a little bit more tricky because there are a lot or so many recipes that do have dairy. Here are a few things that I like to do that I find helpful, even in using recipes that call for dairy. I don't shy away from making that recipe. I just use alternatives. So here's some things that I like to do. For baked goods that call for dairy, say cottage cheese or yogurt, I love using pumpkin. It adds so much moisture and it's budget friendly. Something else that I like to do is I like to peel zucchini and basically stick it in my blender, puree it. So it's like a puree. It's going to add that bulk and moisture and things. So zucchini is another option. I have a recipe that actually is for brownies, and I use zucchini, but I don't shred it. So you don't really have the texture like that in it at all, but it's just super yummy and moist. In a pinch, sometimes I've used almond milk or coconut milk. It's not as thick as cottage cheese or yogurt, but it does the job okay. Applesauce and banana puree are another great option. You just need to be careful there because that, as to how much you use and which recipe it is, because it could cause a crossover because they are higher in the carbs. For smoothies that call for cottage cheese or yogurt, I simply add things that are going to create a frothiness or thickness and creaminess. So I'll add maybe milk or more milk than what it calls for, protein powders such as collagen or hemp, sunflower lecithin, MCT oil, and even glucose sometimes. If a recipe already calls for one of those ingredients, I'll just add a little more to add a little bit more of the creaminess to compensate for the cottage cheese or the yogurt. Frozen cauliflower and again peeled zucchini would also add some bulk and creaminess. And then I also like to make the Hello cheese, and on page 487 in the Trim Healthy Cookbook, and the Laughin' Mama cheese on page 484 in the Trim Healthy Cookbook. Those are other great options, and they may not taste like perfectly exactly like the cheese that you're used to over the years, but when you can't have any cheese, it sure does taste good and adds great flavor to your dishes. Sometimes I'll soak cashews and use that as an alternative for like in a casserole or cream based. I kind of took this from some of the paleo recipes over the years, but they would add like tapioca starch, which is not on plan for us again because it's going to spike your blood sugar. It would be a crossover, etc. So I'll I'll soak them for at least 30 minutes. And then I'll puree them and maybe add a little bit of lemon juice, water, salt, and maybe even a little bit of glucosamine instead of the tapioca starch for a little bit of that thickness to add. And I'll use it as like the melted cheese in, excuse me, in casseroles, such as like the enchilada wonder casserole in the Trim Healthy Cookbook, page 145. And I just want to encourage you, don't shy away from the recipes that have dairy. If you can't have dairy, just try to be creative and enjoy them. I have made the cauli tots in the Trim Healthy Future Cookbook, page 111, without the cheese. And the cheese is almost like the glue in that recipe that helps hold them together. It's made with cauliflower rice. But with the psyllium flakes that are in there already and a little bit of extra pressing and molding, they hold together just fine. And they add a little extra, I also add a little bit of extra salt to compensate for the flavoring of the cheese, and they're super delicious. The instant cheese sauce in the Trim Healthy Future Cookbook on page 378 is another great option. I use this one all the time, especially the fuel pool variation. It can be used in any meal. I also frequently use zucchini. Personally, I often frequently use zucchini or yellow squash instead of the cauliflower, and it doesn't make it as instant. You just have to peel it and chop it up real quick and stick it in your blender. But it's super cheap, especially if it's growing in your garden. And zucchini is really healing and soothing to your gut. And so if you're in a period of time where you're needing to eliminate certain foods and just bring down that inflammation and bring some healing, zucchini can be an excellent option here. But I like to use the sauce in so many things. I also actually use it as a base for the Fuel Pool cheese sauce. I use it as a base in soups. I love soups in winter. And I actually have a recipe. It's a Fuel Pool cheeseburger soup recipe. And I use the Fuel Pool cheese sauce variation as my base. And you would never know. It's super delicious, tastes super cheesy. I just love it that way. Adding avocado to a meal can add that rich creaminess in place of the cheese, and it's another great option. And then again, if you are wanting some store-bought dairy-free cheese options that are on plan. Myokos, Miyokos, is a brand that makes an on-plan mozzarella. Typically, you have to find it in a health food store. Um, I'm not sure if maybe some Walmarts have it. I have not found it at our Walmart. Fresh Thyme, Earth Fare, things like that. I also saw it online, available at Target. And then they also have a website that you can just order straight from the company. Nooch is another option that's on plan. I saw this available at Walmart. Nooch, and it's more like I think like a Parmesan cheese variation, Nooch. And then nutritional yeast is another great flavor and nutritional boost, and it can be found at most grocery stores today. Kite Hill and Myokos make on-plan cream cheese and sour cream also. You want to look for the plain variation. They're clean and just a great dairy-free alternative. I recently saw both at Fresh Thyme, and recently I made, it was Brianna Thomas rhubarb cheesecake delight bars using the Kite Hill cream cheese, and it was super delish. So really enjoyed that. Another great option is when using recipes, whether baked goods or savory meals, is the butter flavored coconut oil. It's not quite as budget friendly, but I like to have both on hand if I'm really making a recipe that I really want that butter flavor. The butter flavored coconut oil is a great option. And lastly, I just wanted to leave you with the encouragement to stay the course and keep showing up and surround yourself with the support that you need, such as from the THM community, network and community and support, family, friends, or whether it be through, THM has so many avenues. It could be Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, podcasts, coaches, and in-person meetups. Those are great too. And I hope that you were able to glean a few things from our time together. And I wish you the best as you continue your health and wellness journey with Trim Healthy Mama. And I'm available for any questions if you have any questions.
Thank you so much, Shannon. And I just want to mention to everybody watching, I know that quite a few of you are on a stubborn weight loss protocol. And if I were you, I would go back and take notes, watch this again and take notes on what Shannon said. And a lot of the product recommendations, there were two that I hadn't heard of before. I think that, we cover a lot of that in boot camp, but there are some excellent suggestions here and products to try out that I know some people don't like the taste and texture of some dairy-free items, but with new recommendations, I think you can keep trying until maybe you find something that tastes a lot better to you and works better with your budget. So there were so many awesome recommendations. I would just really recommend you go back and write things down if you have a chance to. And I want to say thank you so much to Shannon too. That was so helpful. And I really appreciate all the detail too in the different recommendations of what we can try. And Esther did ask, is there something that you can also replace egg whites with? Do you have any experience or have you ever tried substituting eggs? I know that I've done the eggs with gelatin mixture, and I've done the chickpea replacement for eggs, but that does change the fuel type. So do you have anything that you've ever tried, or do you usually stick to egg whites?
I find it really tricky especially in baked goods. I typically use the gelatin, like I'll bloom it and then soften it or what have you. And then there is flaxseed. If you soak it for like 10 minutes, it can be an egg substitute, but it's really hard to get that baked. You really have to play around with it to get your baked good to taste right with those. And what was agar powder is basically a vegan variation of the gelatin, which could be another option also. So those are the three things that I typically do. And for example, when the egg white pudding was like really going, like everyone was really enjoying that, I still have not yet perfected my recipe, but I have been using, again, the zucchini. I use that a lot. I'll puree it and I'll add some glucomen, just not as much. And I'll make like a pudding using like vegetables, like because zucchini is very like smooth texture, what have you, but it's also kind of a thickener. And so that would be like an example in a pudding recipe. But as far as the baked goods, just the gelatin, the agar powder, and the um, flaxseed, which would affect the fuel type, the flaxseed would. So those are the ones that I have used over the years, also with the egg whites replacement.
Those are great recommendations. Thank you. I had a flaxseed. I think flaxseed is a good one because it is a little more flavor neutral, kind of like
Right.
maybe not as much as gelatin, but still pretty tasteless for a lot of
Yeah.
things. So that's a great idea. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to be posting all of Shannon's contact information so you can reach out to her. I would encourage you to follow her on any social media channels that she's on and keep an eye out for her in the THM Coaching Connection group. But thank you so much for joining us today, Shannon. That was so helpful and awesome. And I really appreciate you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.